Walk into any boat dealership in America and you'll see rows of center consoles gleaming under fluorescent lights. Fresh gel coat, chrome hardware catching the sun through the showroom windows. The salesman tells you this 22-foot fishing boat is a $50,000 vessel built to handle anything the ocean throws at it. But here's what happens when somebody who actually builds these things takes a Sawzall to one. The fiberglass is sprayed, not laid. The structural backbone is plywood from a lumberyard. And the transom holding your $15,000 outboard motor is already soaking up water before you make your first payment. The boating industry in the United States sells roughly 238,000 new powerboats every year in a $55.6 billion market. 95% of those boats are manufactured right here in America, and 61% of the people buying them earn under $100,000 a year. These are working families stretching their budgets for weekends on the water. They walk through the dealership and everything looks solid. The hull feels thick when you knock on it. The fittings shine. The seats are comfortable. But almost nothing you can see or touch on a showroom boat tells you a single thing about how it was actually constructed. The hull layup, the stringer material, the transom core, the resin system, the grade of stainless on those fittings. All of it is hidden beneath a layer of gel coat and upholstery. And in my experience, the dealer either can't answer questions about those details or won't. That's where the real story begins. Because when you cut one of these boats open, what you find inside will make you angry. The single biggest construction shortcut in the boat industry has a name. It's called the chopper gun. It's a pneumatic tool that chops continuous fiberglass strands into random 1.5 to 3 inch pieces and sprays them with catalyzed resin into a mold. Imagine a leaf blower full of wet confetti. That's your hull. The result is a laminate with randomly oriented short fibers, like particle board instead of plywood. A chopper gun hull achieves roughly a 33 to 67 fiber-to-resin ratio by weight. The industry standard for solid laminate strength is 70 to 30, so you're getting a hull that's nearly the inverse of what it should be. Compare that to a hand-laid hull, where workers place pre-cut sheets of woven roving and biaxial fabric layer by layer in controlled orientations. The fibers align for maximum strength. Research shows that woven roving composites have dramatically greater tensile and bending strength than chopped strand mat. In practical terms, a properly hand-laid hull achieves roughly 3 times the impact resistance. Now here's what should really get your blood pressure up. The reason manufacturers use the chopper gun is simple. It saves time and money. Chopper gun layup reduces production time by about 27%. For a 20 to 25 foot center console, hand laying the hull adds between $1,500 and $5,000 in labor. Marine surveyor David Pascoe inspected over 5,000 boats before he passed away in 2018, and he described chopper gun layup as so porous it was like running water through a sea strainer. He was a second-generation surveyor certified by the National Association of Marine Surveyors back in 1972, and he spent decades documenting exactly what goes wrong when production boats are built cheap. He wrote 3 books and over 180 articles on construction defects alone. When he cut into chopper gun hulls, he found inconsistent thickness depending entirely on whoever was holding the gun that shift. Air bubbles trapped in the laminate, stress fractures along flex points, delamination creeping inward from every impact with a wave or a dock piling. When one of these hulls eventually fails on open water, professional structural fiberglass repair starts around $5,000 and climbs fast. But the hull is only the beginning of what's wrong inside these boats. Underneath the fiberglass shell of your boat, there's a skeleton. Longitudinal beams called stringers that give the hull its rigidity, absorb engine vibration, and keep the whole structure from flexing apart in rough seas. In a premium boat, those stringers are made from fiberglass composite or a material called Kusa board that absorbs less than 1% water. In the majority of mid-market boats though, those stringers are plywood. Regular plywood, encapsulated in a thin fiberglass shell. Marine-grade plywood costs about $70 to $110 per sheet. Kusa composite board runs $400 to $550 for the same size. At production scale, wood stringers save the manufacturer between $200 and $500 per boat. And the wood rots. Builders drill limber holes, wiring channels, and fuel line passages straight through the fiberglass skin into that plywood. They use staple guns during assembly, punching hundreds of tiny holes into the protective layer. Water finds every one of those penetration points, but once moisture gets inside encapsulated wood, it doesn't come back out. It sits there, and the rot begins. Pasco documented a Sea Ray 390 Express where the hull stringers were completely wasted after only 10 to 11 years. Stringer replacement on a mid-size fishing boat runs $3,000 to $5,000 at a marine repair yard, and combined with transom work, you're looking at $4,500 to $8,000 or more. The manufacturer saved $200 to $500 on plywood. You pay 10 to 20 times that. But the transom story is even worse, because that's where this stops being about money and starts being about safety. The transom is the flat back wall of your boat. It holds the entire weight of your outboard motor, absorbs every pound of thrust, handles the pounding of trailer travel, and endures constant vibration. On a center console with a $15,000 to $30,000 outboard hanging off the back, the transom is the single most critical structural component on the vessel. In budget and mid-market boats, that transom is built around roughly 1.5 inches of plywood with a fiberglass skin coat. Every bolt hole drilled for engine mounts, trim tabs, the drain plug, the swim ladder, and the transducer punches through that protective skin and exposes the wood underneath. Marine surveyors consistently find transom moisture on boats 8 to 15 years old. And when a transom gives out, the consequences go beyond expensive. There are documented cases of outboard engines separating from boats entirely while underway. One owner reported the engine and transom breaking apart with the motor ending up underneath the hull, held only by the control cables. Another described punching the throttle and having the engine blow straight through the rotted wood. That boat sank with 5 people aboard. Transom replacement on a mid-size center console runs $2,500 to $6,000. One Nautic Star Bay boat owner was quoted $18,000. A Grady White 265 owner that needed $37,000 for the complete job. The cost to build that transom with Kusa composite instead of plywood? Roughly $500 to $1,000 extra per boat at production volume. So we've covered the hull, the stringers, and the transom. But the cost cutting doesn't stop at the big structural pieces. It goes all the way down to the screws holding your cleats on. Gelcoat, the shiny outer layer protecting your hull, should be sprayed at 15 to 22 mils thickness. Budget manufacturers shoot it thin, sometimes down to 10 or 12 mils in spots. When gelcoat is too thin, water molecules penetrate the surface, find air pockets with uncured resin, and create pressurized blisters that can reach 200 pounds per square inch beneath the hull skin. Full blister treatment on a 20-foot boat costs $3,000 to $5,000. A complete re-gel coat runs $6,000 to $10,000. The manufacturer saved maybe $50 to $200 on material. Flotation foam is only legally required on boats 20 feet and under, which leaves the vast majority of center consoles with no minimum flotation standards. And the hardware question is one you can actually investigate yourself if you know the trick. There are 2 common grades of stainless steel on boats. 316 stainless contains molybdenum, which shields it from saltwater corrosion. 304 stainless does not. They look identical on the showroom floor, same finish, same shine. But 304 develops rust pitting within 3 years near salt air. Budget boats run 304 on cleats, hinges, and rails to save 20 to 30% per fitting. You don't have to take my word for any of this. The courtrooms already weighed in. In 2014, a 7-year-old boy named Ryan Batchelder was riding in a Malibu Response LX on Lake Burton in Georgia. The boat crossed its own wake at 5 to 7 miles per hour and swamped. Ryan was killed. During the trial, it came out that Malibu never consulted engineers while designing the Response LX, conducted no formal safety testing, and when their own employees warned about swamping risks, the company mocked the customers, raising concerns. The jury returned a $200 million verdict. It was later settled for $100 million. Mastercraft faced a $30 million verdict after a woman suffered permanent brain injury when their boat swamped under similar conditions. Evidence showed Mastercraft ran zero engineering analysis during that boat's design. Bayliner alone has generated over 3,200 recalled boats since 1976. Sea Ray has logged more than 35 recalls on fuel, electrical, and steering systems. Pasco documented a large Sea Ray with a balsa cord hull bottom that completely fell apart in 3 years, with core samples coming out as a handful of mush in his hands. On boating forums, owners who've rebuilt older boats consistently confirm his findings. One guy who tore into an 1,988 forewinds wrote that he could see every fault Pasco had described: stringers not glassed all the way, holes left unsealed, carpets stapled in places where structural fiberglass should have been. And this isn't underground information. An NBC investigation in 2017 titled "Small Craft Advisory" confirmed that manufacturers conduct testing of their own watercraft with no third-party oversight whatsoever. A consumer safety expert told the reporters flat out that the boating industry sells a product consumers assume is heavily regulated, when in reality, the federal structural requirements are almost non-existent. If this is opening your eyes to how these boats are actually built, subscribe. I tear apart boats and engines every week and show you what the dealership won't. No brand deals, no sponsored content, just what's physically inside. Now let's talk about why nobody stops any of this. The Federal Boat Safety Act was signed in 1971. It has barely been updated since. There is no federal standard for hull thickness, no required resin type, no mandated stringer material, and no required third-party crash testing or structural testing of any kind. The closest thing the industry has to construction standards comes from the ABYC, the American Boat and Yacht Council, but their standards are completely voluntary and locked behind a paywall. NMMA certification checks the model design on paper, not individual boats rolling off the production line on a Tuesday afternoon. And the Coast Guard has been discussing updates to the 1971 regulations for decades without setting a timeline. An NBC investigation in 2017 confirmed exactly what you'd expect from a system like this. There is no equivalent of the NHTSA crash test ratings that you get with cars. No independent body slamming these hulls into waves at speed and measuring what breaks. The manufacturer builds the boat, tests the boat, and certifies the boat. And the Coast Guard, the only federal agency with authority over recreational boat safety, has been working on updating the 1971 regulations without setting any firm deadline for completion. Every shortcut we've talked about today, the chopper gun hulls, the plywood stringers and transoms, the thin gel coat, the 304 stainless fittings, none of it violates a single federal law. That's the real scandal. Let me put the full accounting in front of you. Wood stringers save the manufacturer $200 to $500. Chopper gun layup saves $1,500 to $5,000. Skipping a vinyl ester barrier coat saves $100 to $300. Using 304 stainless instead of 316 saves $200 to $600. Spraying thin gel coat saves $50 to $200. Total manufacturer savings, roughly $2,000 to $6,600 per boat. Now the owner's repair bill when those shortcuts fail within 10 to 15 years. Stringers, $3,000 to $8,000. Hull delamination, $5,000 to $15,000. Transom, $2,500 to $8,000 or more. Blister treatment and gel coat, $3,000 to $10,000. Corroded hardware replacement, $1,000 to $3,000. Total damage, $18,000 to $42,000 on a boat that cost $50,000. That's a 7-to-1 to 10-to-1 ratio of what you pay versus what they saved. Building every boat the right way would add about $5,000 to $12,000 at the retail sticker. That's roughly 10 to 15% more on a $50,000 boat. You would pay that, I would pay that. Every single buyer would pay that if they saw what was actually inside the cheaper version first. And some manufacturers already build it right. Sportsman Boats has never put a single piece of wood in any model they've ever produced. Every stringer, every transom, every structural piece is fiberglass composite bonded with aerospace-grade adhesive. Boston Whaler injects closed-cell foam between the hull and liner to create one fused structure. Their boats are used by the United States Coast Guard and Navy Special Operations teams. You can literally saw a whaler in half and both pieces float. Grady White handlays every hull, switched to all composite stringers and transoms back in 2015, runs 316 stainless throughout, and has won 23 consecutive customer satisfaction awards. That's not a marketing slogan. That's 2 decades of owners confirming the boats hold up. Scout Boats handlays every component with zero chopper gun on any model. Cobia, which is part of the Maverick Boat Group, uses a vacuum-infused resin system called Varis on their larger models that fuses the hull, stringers, transom, and deck into a single bonded unit. Everglades uses a patented construction method that envelops molded foam in fiberglass and backs it with a lifetime hull warranty. Intrepid and Invincible both build vacuum-infused hulls with no wood below the waterline and haven't for decades. The technology exists, the materials exist. The cost is real, but reasonable. If you're shopping right now, here's your defense. Before you sign anything or hand over a deposit at the marina, get a marine survey from a certified independent surveyor. It costs $25 to $35 per foot, roughly $500 to $875 for a 20-foot to 25-foot boat. One inspection with a moisture meter and a sounding hammer reveals hull integrity, stringer condition, transom soundness, moisture content, and blister damage. It is the single best money you will spend in the entire buying process, and it's the one step the dealer will never suggest. At the dealership, ask 5 things. Is the hull hand-laid or chopper gun? Are the stringers and transom wood or composite? What grade stainless on the fittings? 304 or 316? Can I physically see the bilge and stringer system? What core material is in the hull and deck? If the dealer fumbles those questions or steers you toward the stereo system and the cup holders instead, that tells you everything. The $50,000 lie isn't that boats cost too much. It's that buyers assume they're getting $50,000 worth of a boat. Now you know what's actually inside, the dollar figures, the part names, and the brands that do it right.